It's the Unbalanced Podcast. Unbalanced, 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 unbalanced. It's the Unbalanced Podcast.
Okay, hello guys, and welcome to Unbalanced. Woo woo. Am I only saying woo woo? Am I? Oh, okay. Hey, Harriet. Energy. Thank you. Anyways, I'm Harriet Santos and Mr. here.
Jaco.
And we have the lovely Monique in the house today, our special guest. And over there,
London 8.
You tried to steal my flow because you know I usually come back with
Why would I want to be like you, bro?
steal them.
Such
shit evil.
sorry, Dumb and Dumber.
I think we should rewind and come
Oh, I'm
again.
sorry. So who's another duo that's brilliant?
But I ain't dumb or dumb.
Chuckle
Yeah, I
Brothers.
definitely. I
The
don't
Chuckle
even hear that.
Brothers. They were
Wow.
brilliant.
Tomato.
Even so button.
You know, we're
Are
saying.
they trying to?
Yeah. You know, you just leave it thrown.
It's all love. It's all love.
It's alright.
It's so love. But anyways, today I'm gonna talk about domestic violence and domestic abuse, which is something that a lot of people go through. And since this pandemic, there has been a massive increase on basically domestic abusive cases. And we just want to, have this platform to educate, inspire, share awareness, and so forth. And this is the reason specifically why we have Monique here, because she has a great, and she's a testimony, let's just put it there. And she's going to be sharing her story. And I'm just going to stop talking and just hand it over to you and just, So you can start from like anywhere. How did you ever been through an experience of?
Previously for that situation, no.
Okay.
Not in the extent that I went through it with that partner at the time.
Okay.
Not like that. I've never been through anything like that situation. It was, when you're young, you have young relationships and you're both growing and you're going in separate directions. You kind of have that, you knock heads because there's a change of growth. One person is going one direction and another might not want to let go because you're not going in the same direction as them. But not to the extent where I can actually say, I can now sit and say I am a survivor from being a domestic.
Amen. I like that.
So yeah,
I like
this was
that.
the first.
So how do you feel? Talk about the one that the experience that you went through. How does this? Because everything starts lovely. There's no one gets into a relationship like, yes, I want to be in a toxic relationship. None of us do, and we end up getting into a situation, and unfortunately that toxic becomes even more toxic, and then it may lead or may not lead to other things. How was your situation?
For me, the start was very Jekyll and Hyde. It was in the beginning, the dates, the romancing, sending me flowers, things that make you think, oh, he's making an effort. And that's how it started. And then it was, as time came on, little changes. You see little things, but you try not to pay too much attention
The
to
red
it.
flags.
Exactly. You try not to pay too much attention because you think, okay, everybody has their faults. Nobody's perfect.
What were the little red flags that you feel?
The first red flag for me was we were seeing each other, and this was like 4 months into the relationship, and I got pregnant.
Okay.
And I found out on my birthday. And I'm telling you, the very next day it started. And that was the first red flag.
Wow.
The very
Pregnancy.
next day, the day I found out I was pregnant, that was the last good day. And then
It's
it
so
was just
weird
the
to
next
say
day.
that, because a lot of the cases that I worked with in the past, it's usually when the woman gets pregnant that it's really interesting that is. Yeah.
And that's just where it started. It was, I found I was pregnant. The very next day it just started small, like, asking questions that make me uncomfortable, and then using the information I gave, using it back at me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it started. It would be, how many guys did you sleep with? what's their name, and then it would, you know, I'd get it thrown back. Well, you did this with so and so, and so that makes you, you know, slut or a this and a that, and it was like the mind games, the constant mind games, the constant picking. If I did something, make a big deal out of it, and then bring that whole situation back in again. You know, because you did that with that person, that's probably why you're like that. And then that is literally, that is how it started, and then it gets deeper, and then it got deeper.
Is it what the emotional side of things?
It's the emotional. The physical side of it probably didn't start until I'd say into like midway through my pregnancy, until I probably got to about 6 months or so, and then that's when the physical interaction started. But it was just all mind games in the beginning. It was constantly like breaking me down, telling me I'm not worthy, you know, telling me I'm not good enough. But I'm good enough for him, but I'm not good enough for anybody else, you know.
So it's a belittling.
Yeah, you can't leave me. And then it's also the guilt trips. If you leave me, then you're like everybody else in my life. And then
Emotional
there you
blackmail.
go, yeah. So then you feel like you have to stay, because then you feel like you have to slightly prove yourself. Because then if I leave, then I'm just like everybody else for real, you know. So maybe I'll just try and make it work, because everybody has problems in their relationship, so why not try? So then you get to that situation where you start telling yourself, no, I'm just going to try again this time. But it never changes, even though you want it to, and for maybe a day or two it's all nice, but then again.
Do you feel like you hold on to that, the happy moment, that moment where you feel like we see a bit of light and you're like, oh, okay, we actually can be something or be something happen? Do you hold on to that? Is that what makes...
You do, because you think when you're in that situation and the bad is happening at the time, it seems so big, but when you take a second to step back, you start telling yourself like, why am I in this? And then you start thinking of the good times. Those things can keep you there, just because, like I said, it's the mind game thing. You know, it's like, okay, I don't want to be like everybody else in their life. I want to try and do that. I want to try and work with you. Just maybe I might be your change. Even though you probably know that's not the case, but you will try. You will try.
So tell me about the first time you actually got physical, like, yeah.
The first time, to my knowledge, was I don't even know how the argument started. We were in a car, me, myself, my son, him, myself and my son in the car. And we were driving, and I cannot remember what we were arguing. We were just arguing over something in the car. And I wanted to get out of the car. And I was like 6 months pregnant here, so, and I wanted to get out of the car, and he didn't want me to get out of the car. And then I said to him, right, drop me, because we were close enough to where my mum lived. So I was like, drop me to my mum's house. I want to get out. And he was just like, kind of like, no, if I stop this car, it's gonna get difficult. In the end, he stopped the car, and I tried to get out to leave, and he was just like dragging me down the street. There were like people looking out their windows, and he's like shouting at them to not get involved, and he's telling me to get in the car because I'm making a scene. It's like, get in the car because you're making a scene. So then in the end, it's kind of like a thing of, my son's there as well, so he's witnessing all of this. So it's kind of thing like, okay, I'll get back in the car because I don't want to cause a problem. But then even when I got in the car, it still went on. You know, he's still dragging at me. You know, it's like the simple things like knocking me with his elbow, like giving me a good shove with his elbow. But then if I would say to him like, right, you'll hit me, you'll hit me.
So it's subtle things.
And that is literally, from then, it just was like, it's like once you get comfortable doing it now, I can do it again.
So the toxic becomes a norm almost, and the abuse becomes almost a norm. Was there ever a time where you thought, wow, like where he really, you know?
Yeah.
And if I'm asking any question, if you're uncomfortable, just tell me, Harriet, I'm not comfortable.
No,
with
it's
that.
fine.
Yeah.
I think for him, with the situation, with that situation what I was in, his goal was to get me away from friends and family, so that when these situations occurred, it's just me by myself, in a sense. Yeah. So when
That's the most typical thing
Yeah.
of perpetrators. Isolate the
So I
the
moved
person.
completely out of London, just
Wow.
me, him, and my child, and I had my baby at that time. And there was a situation where it was me and him in the house, and my son was at school, and my daughter, she was in the high chair, and got into an altercation, and I ran upstairs and had shut the bedroom door to like lock myself in, and he had like, because he's like quite a big guy, so he had pushed himself and eventually got into the room, and he literally grabbed me by one of my legs and dragged me from the top of the hallway all the way down to the stairs, and all I was thinking is, if I hit my head on the stairs, I'm gone.
Oh my God.
If I whack my head on the stairs, and I'm trying to hold on for dear life, and then at the same time you've got the baby in the background crying because the screaming and the shouting's going on. So you're kind of in, when you're in that situation, you're kind of in like a fight or flight mode. You do whatever you got to do to kind of like survive. So I'm trying to hold on for dear life to not let go, because I'm thinking, if I let go, this just could be it for me. This could be it.
Wow.
And there's nobody there because there's only a baby, so it's just me, him, and the baby.
That's crazy. So how long did you stay in that? Because I heard that as well. The statistic says that sometimes it takes a woman 5 times to leave until she finally actually leaves. So a lot of people, because I used to work with someone who used to be a domestic abuse worker, and that's something that she told me. And I said, how do you, because sometimes it can be frustrating when you're trying to help someone that doesn't help themselves. So especially when they keep going back, why do you feel like people go back, and do you believe in that it takes a lot of times for you to actually say, I'm finally leaving?
Yeah.
Did you try to leave more than once?
Oh yeah. Okay. I was in it for 3.5 years, over 3.5 years.
Wow.
And you break up, you say that's it, no more, and you go back. So I always say to people, it's easier to stay than it is to leave.
Okay.
The staying is easy because you become conditioned. When you're in it, you're conditioned to your environment. You know not to do certain things. You know not to say certain things. You know not to behave certain ways. You know your place. When you leave, it's like starting all over again, and that's the thought of just starting all over again is frightening alone. And then the thought of, when I leave, it's just not going to end when I leave. You know. So if I stay, then I can control the situation just a little bit more if I'm there and I'm staying. So it is one of those situations where you can leave so many times and you'll just keep going back. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to leave, but it really is worth it in the end when you have just left the situation.
So were there not any other people you could address the issues
the
to,
thing
like
is,
family, friends? I was thinking about your son's father. I don't know if you don't mind me asking you. Do you two get along? Did he see any signs, or
I mean,
did your
that
son
situation was
tell his dad anything?
No. So the situation but if I needed help, I wouldn't doubt that he wouldn't help me. You know, if I needed the help. But this is the thing when you're in that situation. Everybody was around me. You know, people were seeing. Some had seen what was going on, and some knew. You know, they had that feeling and they knew. But it's kind of a situation where people see it and they think they can't kind of help you until you're ready to say, yeah, take me out of it. You know, because if you drag someone out of that situation, they're just going to go back. They're going to go back because, like I said, you're conditioned to that situation. So it's easier to go back, and that's all they know. So I mean, the people around me had inklings. They knew something was going on. They knew something wasn't right. His behaviour alone was telling him something isn't correct. You know, and it was, you know, there was a point where it was being done in my grandparents' home. You know, we were in my grandparents' home, and that's when he got kicked out. That's when he, you know, I don't know how he hashed up this idea of I'm going to remove her out of that situation. You know, because now it's getting too much. Everybody's getting involved, and
it's a power control thing.
Yeah, everybody's getting involved, and I can't now do what I want to do with her, with everybody having their say, and everyone's getting in her.
Because you're getting empowered.
That's right. He doesn't want anyone to tell me to leave him. You know, so he doesn't want that, and it's crazy because sometimes you want to scream and say to your family members, like, help me. But then you yourself don't even know if you're ready to get out yet. You know? And it sounds crazy, but you don't know yourself if you're ready because are you ready for the fight to get out? Because men like that or women like that are narcissistic and they're abusers and they know what they're doing. You know, it's like you coming out of that situation, they know they're going to put a fight in and not let you leave that easily. You know, my partner at the time, he told my mum she's going to come back. She's going to come back.
Confidently as well.
Confidently, he told the police officer, she's going to come back.
Wow.
Because that's how confident he was.
That just made me mad. I was just like...
How confident he was that he knew that he felt that, you know, I was his. I was
possession
his. Yeah,
almost.
I was his.
Question: what was his relationship like with his parents?
Bad.
Yeah.
So the relationship with his parents were very bad. His parents went through the same domestic situation, you know.
So
So-
it's a cycle now.
It was a very strong cycle from his background, you know. It's what, sad to say, it's what he knew.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
he was only, you know, they have a saying that, you know, a child is a product of their environment. He was literally a product of his environment because that's what his background was. He was, you know, I remember one time he said to me, you know, because he wasn't born here, and he said to me, "You're too westernized," and he said to me, "Back where I'm from, when women get beat by their husbands, the police officers tell them go inside your house and do it behind closed doors."
That's it.
And I had to remind him, like, we're in England.
Wow.
That doesn't happen in England.
Wow.
It doesn't happen, yeah, because you know, to him, it's normal.
It's normal.
He didn't see anything wrong with it. It was normal.
Wow.
It was normal behavior. He just saw it as I'm supposed to accept it and understand that, you know, he's gonna try and change eventually, but maybe he's just not ready now. You know.
So did he ever hold his hands up and, you know, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, you know, that old chestnut? Did he ever, was he like that at all?
Now, through all the court battles that we went through, because I mean, we went through a fight. I mean, the fight went on for like additional 4 years of my life, you know. And he
So the
met,
fight doesn't stop when you leave, so you have to be strong enough and know that this until we.
he done every trick in the book you can name, like every marking on the list that you have for domestics, he just ticked it, and he done it all. He you know, when I first left, he tried to go through to family. He tried to, you know, put me on social media. He just tried to paint me as this bad person. And then it was after all of that that he realised he just couldn't get to me anymore because, you know, thankfully to like the people around me, everybody just shut him off like he didn't exist. So I think when he realised, okay, I can't get to her anymore. Like no matter what I'm trying and doing, the doors are closing on me. He eventually came with that tactic of, I'm so sorry, you know. So yeah, he has apologised, but for me, I just,
So,
yeah, I'm
so
done
he was
with it.
never.
Too much damage.
So
too
after
much
his,
damage.
after his episodes, he was never remorseful. It's not until later on.
Not in the beginning. As far as he was concerned, he was the victim. He was the victim. I was not the victim. He was the victim. And the things he would say for why he was the victim, you'd be like, are you listening to yourself? You know, because even, you know, when he would speak to like the authorities that were like around at the time, like the police or the social services, and he would say certain things, and they would say to him like, are you listening to what you're saying? Are you hearing what you're saying? But he was convinced, no, I'm the victim. She's not the victim, I'm the victim. You don't know what she's done to me, you know?
So he was just almost like blaming you for his toxic behaviour, basically.
I would get blamed for it. Yeah, I was at fault for why it all happened. You know, he might have done small things, but that's because I might have wound him up. That's why I said, oh, you wind me up, so therefore that's why I retaliate like that.
So what was like the last straw for you that made you go, you know what, I can't do it anymore? Like, what was that? What made you do it?
I mean, the end part, there's a story. I don't know if you
Okay.
want to hear
Yes,
it.
yes, 100%.
So near the end, what had happened is we were living in a rented property, and my cousin was up at the time, and we were downstairs, me and her just talking, and he came down and he said, you need to pack up because we're being kicked out. And when he said it at the time, I just thought he was joking. I didn't think he was being serious. Like, me and my cousin kind of like laughed him off and just kind of like continued to speak. And then he was like, no, I'm not joking. Like, we need to pack up. We've got to be out. Like, I think we had like 2-3 days to get out and leave. And I had no knowledge of us having to leave because he had communicated with the landlord. So we then had to literally from that day, pack up everything and then leave. And then we had no accommodation. So in the end, we had to go into a temporary accommodation, and we were staying in. It was kind of like it's like a one trailer place. Me, him, and the 2 kids. And once we got into there, I think that's when things really started to get intense because we're all just under one small space. So it really started to get intense, and it was just like a constant build up of me and him constantly arguing. And then I'd say the last few weeks, what he was doing is he was going out, and he had control of my cards because I was like the main breadwinner. I brought in all the money, so he would have my cards, and he would spend whatever he wanted, and then give me what I needed to do
You
like buy
made
the baby.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So buy the baby's bits and get the household bits, and he was going out like every night, and what he would do is he would give me around like a £20 budget for me and the 2 kids to feed ourselves while he was gone. Now he would be going out to eat, doing shisha with his
Wow.
friends, and we would be back where we were, me and the 2 kids. So we'd have a £20 budget. And it was, I mean, I know it's £20, but it was good. When he wasn't there, it was good. Me and the kids, like, our memory of that was like, that was probably like the best
nice
time we were
bless.
there, was just because I made it stretch, you know? I made every day's meal, like meals, it stretched, and we got our little treats and we had our meal. And that's literally how it was. And then it was like the day before the situation happened, he came back. And I remember that feeling of when his car pulled up, you just felt that dread. And he came in, and it started off with a situation with my son's dad had called the phone, because I didn't have a phone. He would always break my phones. So anyone that needs to get hold of me would have to go through him. So my son's dad had called the phone to basically communicate that he wanted to, you know, start seeing my son a bit more regularly, like bringing him down. And I think it just wound him up. And so he was kind of like on a warpath that day, in a sense. And then my son's dad had said, when we were speaking, he had said that basically he didn't want to communicate with him anymore. He felt that at the end of the day, we had a child together. Why does he have to communicate with him? He should be able to speak to me and
100%.
not.
Co-parenting.
Which he was not. He was not wrong for that, you know. And he should be able to speak to me and not speak to him. So at that time, after the conversation had happened and the phone had hanged up, he was kind of like going at me and my son. You know, like we are ganging up against him, and we're talking behind his back, and we're in a sense like conspiring against him in a sense. And then it was, you know, I must be still in love with my son's dad, and you still love him and you still got feelings for him. So it was just like a build up of an argument that whole day, and this went on for like the whole day. It was like non-stop, like from morning till night. It was just arguments after arguments after, and it was just for small things, like you didn't do that correctly, and then he'd just pick at me, or then if my son did something wrong, then he'd pick at him. You're not doing this. And so that night we decided we was going to go to the shops. We was going to the Sainsbury's, and we were walking down to the shop, and he just was on this path of, you know, I've sold my soul to the devil. And this is exactly what was coming out. You know, I've sold my soul to the devil. And so obviously I'm very spiritual. So I was like, you know, well, dark and light can't mix. So, you know, if you sold your soul to the devil, then that's you. Like, that's got nothing to do with me, but just know we can't mix. And then he then from troubling me, he then goes to the kids. My son had he had made friends in the unit and they were following us. So he then goes to them and then he starts picking at my son in front of his friends, like trying to embarrass him and make him feel bad about himself. So I got quite upset at that situation that he was doing that. So then he come over and he's like, why are you sulking? And I'm just like, you know, you don't have to be doing that. You don't have to be making him feel like bad in front of his friends. Like what, you know, what's that about? So from that, I think because of the way my attitude was and I was upset with him, he wasn't happy with that. So we got to the Sainsbury's. At the time, everything was okay. We got back to the unit, and then that night, an argument kicked off. So it starts with him arguing, you know, him in my face, him in my son's face. I'm then feeling like I have to protect my son, so I'm protecting my son. So I've got him on my face, and at the same time, I'm trying to protect my son because, in a sense, it's like he wants to go at the two of us. We got that night to calm down that night, and everything kind of settled down. And then the next day, that night, what he did that night is how the unit was is we had beds over there with like me and him had beds. It was like 2 single beds they pushed together, and then there was like bunk beds, and me and my son and the baby were sitting on the bunk bed. Now my little one was little at that time, so they get around. So she had gone onto the bed with her dad, and he started putting on like devil worshipping music. And so we're sitting there and we're like, okay, what's going on? And then he starts getting on his hands and knees, and he starts to bow up and down on his hands and knees. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying to the kids, don't watch him, just don't like give him no attention, don't watch him. And then my daughter went to touch him, and then he done some like demonic voice. And then I was like, yeah, you're just going too far now. You're just going too far with all of this. Like, obviously now I know it's like a scare tactic, but I was thinking, okay, you're going too far with this. And then he decided that he was going to get a razor in front of the kids and pretend to slit his wrist, start rubbing the blade on his wrist.
Lord.
Yeah, starts rubbing the blade
What
on his
the
wrist
heck?
in front of the children. So I've moved my daughter and we're sitting over. So I'm saying to them, just ignore him, just ignore him. So that night, obviously you feel uneasy because if somebody's doing that, you're thinking, okay, something's about to go down because it seems that, you know, his spirit is uneasy right now. So I slept with the kids because I was frightened. So I slept with the kids and I was like, all right, I'm going to just keep clear and keep out of his path so I don't like aggravate him. And then the next day I had an appointment and we were on our way to the appointment and we had to take bus because he used to rent cars and the car had to go back. So we were taking a bus. And we took a bus now and we're going from where we were staying. It was like up Luton side. And so we needed to go back to where we were staying to go down to the GP surgery. And on the way, I got a phone call from another appointment I had to basically say that it was cancelled. So I said to him, okay, we're just going to go straight to the doctor's appointment and don't do no stop-offs. So we're on the bus. And this is where definitely, for me, I feel like God had my back because the thing is, the night before I was praying, I was saying to God, you know, if I'm not supposed to be in this situation, please take me out of it. Like, I'm actually ready now. I'm ready to leave because weeks before I was prepping my son and I would say things to my son like, if he kicks off in the house and he attacks me, what I want you to do is I want you to take your sister and I want you to run to the nearest house. When they let you in and they shut the door, do not let him in. Don't let him in until the police arrive because I was ready that either something was going to go down and he was either going to kill me, you know. So I was in that situation where I was telling the kids, like I was prepping the kids, like, you know, if something goes down and you need to take your sister and just go. Don't think about me, just go. So when we were on the bus, like I said, I did feel like God was on my side at this point. And with the prayer that I had made, it was like everything had fell into place after this. So we're on the bus, got a phone call, and it was my son's dad again. And again, it wound him up. So we're on a bus, and I mean, this bus is packed with people. And my son's dad called, and I kind of like looked at him to say, like, is it okay for me to speak to him? And then he was like, yeah, okay, speak to him. So I spoke to my son's dad, and, you know, my son's dad saying to him, like, you know, we need to communicate. Like, you need to not have your boyfriend on the phone communicating with me. Like, me and you had him. I didn't have him with him. So, you know, so we were talking, and we came to an agreement. So when I came off the phone, he was like, I was sitting at the front of the bus where like the pram part is, and he was sitting just in the middle of the center of the bus, and he screams over the bus and he goes, oh, I see how you were smiling and you were so happy. And I was like, no, I was just talking. And so he's like, no, I saw you were so happy, you were smiling, yeah, the love of your life. So now everybody's on the bus is staring because obviously he's shouting across the bus. So I'm like, okay, I didn't say nothing to it, I just kind of kept my mouth quiet. And he just kept going on, yeah, the love of your life. You wait till we get off of this bus. Just wait until we get off of this bus. So I'm trying to keep my cool and don't say nothing more because I don't want to wind him up more. So I'm quiet on the bus and I'm looking out the window. And I remember looking out the window and I remember saying, God, please, if I'm supposed to get out of this, yeah, please get me out now because I can't do this anymore. I'm giving up. I can't do this anymore. And I even remember I'm sitting on the bus and I remember hearing in my head something saying to me, say goodbye to Milton Keynes. That's where we were. Say goodbye to Milton Keynes. And I'm thinking in my head, no, I think I'm imagining it because obviously it's probably just what I want to hear. And I'm sitting there thinking that, like, no, I'm going crazy. And I just kept hearing the same thing repeated in my head. Say goodbye to Milton Keynes. Say goodbye to Milton Keynes. And then eventually I said, all right, I'm just going to say it. So I said to the window, like, bye, Milton Keynes. And then straight after that, my son's dad called again. And that just sent him off on the bus. He was like cursing me on the bus, threatening me. Yeah, threatening me on the bus. We got to our stop. We got off. I just literally had stepped my foot. I had the pram. I had the baby. And I just had stepped my foot out of off the bus. And as I got off the bus, he just went for me. He just lunged for me. He started pushing me. I was trying to hold the baby. So now I'm saying to my son, you hold the baby. And he's just like constantly pushing me. And I was in like slippers at the time. And I remember just constantly sliding out the slippers, trying to like control myself, like to hold the pram and just try. And I'm trying to watch the kids because where we were, it's like a big kind of like where Milton Keynes is like big main roads. It's not like a standard roads or like motorway roads. So I'm trying to watch the kids because she's a baby, you know, and he's only young himself. So I'm trying to watch the kids and he's like at one side attacking me. And so the bus has even stopped. The bus is slowing down, just watching, and everyone on the bus is watching. And one lady, I think at the time she maybe like wanted to help me, but he just went at her. So she was like, okay, kind of like stepped out of it. And he's screaming and he's shouting, and all the traffic is slowing down now, and everybody's watching me. And you can just see from the side of my, I could see from the side of my, everyone's just slowing down because they want to know what's going on.
Oh.
And he is screaming and shouting after me, and he's called my mum, and he's on the phone to my mum. I think he was like telling my mum that he's gonna, you know, do me this and he's gonna do me that. And I can hear my mum shouting and panicking on the phone. And I remember him just kicking the phone out of my son's hand. Like he just kicked the phone out of his hand, and the phone goes down on the floor, and that was it. It was just, we kind of got to the edge of the road. And when we got to the edge of the road, there was like a crowd of people outside the GP surgery. And then there was at the time, I didn't know, but it was a midwife. And she was like calling over, like, come over. You and the kids come over. And I think at the time, I was so like out of my environment. I crossed the road. And when I got across the road to her and I walked up to her, I couldn't even see the kids. I was like, where's the kids? And then when we called out to the kids, they were hiding behind a bush. They were frightened, hiding behind the bush. And they've got up and like, my little one, bless her, she's had an accident, and my son is kind of like timid and hiding, and then she's gone, come inside, and we've got inside the surgery. At this time, I didn't know, again, the surgery had called the police. There was a doctor actually driving past, which I found out later on, she had already called the police as well. So the police had got several calls at this point that a man was attacking a woman on the road. So we got inside the surgery, and it just got crazy. We got inside the surgery, and he was just kicking off, cussing the surgery staff and cussing me. And
so he didn't care who was watching.
No. At this point, he had no care in the world.
It's seen red in it.
And then the lady was like, right, I'm going to put you and the kids into a room to separate you away from him. So he's like, no, where are you going? And she's like, well, I need to see her. She's come here for an appointment, so I need to see to her. And he's like, no, she's not going anywhere. So the woman eventually got me to go and got me in the room, but I said to her, I'm not going unless my kids come. So she's come back out and she said to him, you know, I need to take the kids, and he's like threatening that she can't take the kids. So she comes back in, and I say to her, look, the boy is not his, so therefore he can come. But she's like, okay, I can't take the little girl away from him because obviously it's his child. So she's took my son in, and I'm like, I'm not sitting in this room until my daughter's like in the room with me. Because
that's
I know
safeguarding issues. Why would I give?
Yeah.
You'll never give in that situation to the father, because that's safeguarding issues. I don't know why.
And because he was holding her, I feel maybe she just didn't want to take the challenge on at that time. So I was like, okay, I'm not staying here unless she comes in. But I knew he wasn't going to let my daughter go that easily. He just wasn't going to do that. So she had said, well, the police are on their way. When the police get here, they can deal with it. So when the police had arrived, you know, it was like everything worked in my favour that day, because this same midwife, she was an actual, she worked for like domestic violence. So she was like already like trained in it. And then the police officer that had turned up, he was locally in the neighbourhood and got the call. He also was a domestic violence police officer.
Yeah.
So then he turned up, but at the time he had a trainee with him. So he was like, I can't take him on because I've got a trainee, so I have to wait for backup. So they were saying to me, like, are you going to press charges? Are you going to leave? And I'm just sitting there and I'm absolutely silent. So the lady, she sat down with me and she said, I promise I'll get your daughter for you. If I promise I get your daughter for you, will you leave? And then I was like, okay. And then within that second, my son just opened his mouth and he just started telling him everything. Like, he hits my mom, he does this, he does that. Like he was just literally telling him, he just literally, it's like he once he let go, he wasn't stopping. And he just started to tell them everything. And then the officer was like, okay, do you think he's going to give a fight if we take the child away? I was like, oh, definitely. There's no way he's going to let her go like that. So they called for backup, and at this point, I was inside the room, so I couldn't see what was going on at this point. But they said that they had locked the doors, and the officer that was there originally had locked the doors, so he couldn't get out. So he could only just be in the surgery with my little girl. But I mean, he tried everything. We were in the room, and he even tried to come to the door when a nurse was in there because she had the door locked. And he done a female's voice and pretended he was one of the midwives. And when she had the door on like a latch, when she opened the door, he was fighting her to get inside the room. And he had the baby in his hand at this time as well. Yeah. So she had to fight him to shut the door back. Yeah.
Wow.
Was the police officer there as well?
I don't know. I think the police. I couldn't
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
guessing he either had left and had gone outside because he wasn't far.
So he obviously knew he was in trouble now.
Because I mean, for him to be able to get down the hallway and do that, the officer couldn't have been inside the facility at that point. So yeah, he tried to try and get in the door, and then the police came and yeah, he just put up a really good fight. He held her hostage. He refused to let my daughter go. So in the end, they had to like try and pepper spray him that it didn't get my daughter, and then tackle and fight for him to let go of her. Thank gosh, like she didn't get injured badly. She just kind of got her head squeezed when they were trying to get her out. But I mean, once my daughter was in the room, I was like, right, I'm out. This is my one and only chance to get out. And if I don't take this chance, then I'm never getting out. And I just said to the woman, just get me to my mum's house and I'm out. I promise you I'm out. I'm not going back. And I remember that day, like 5 midwives and nurses, they had cancelled their whole clinics just to get me back to London to my mum. Because they wanted to put me in a refuge, and I just didn't want to go into a refuge because it would have been up in that area, and I needed to just get home to my loved ones. And so they worked tirelessly. They called the council. The council then made sure that I got funds. Yeah, I mean, when I turned up at my mum's door, I had no possessions. I had a handbag. I didn't even have a nappy for the baby. That was it. I just came with the clothes on my back and a handbag and the kids' clothes and a pram, and that's literally. I had left every single bit of my possessions behind.
And was that time to tell Mum everything what had gone on?
Mum knew.
Oh,
Mum
did
knew.
she?
The thing is, my mum knew because we had arguments where she would be on the phone trying to like mediate between the two of us, and there was times where he had called my mum and told my mum he was going to chop my head off. He called my mum and said, "I'm going to chop your daughter's head off." You know,
levels of disrespect.
Yeah, no. He had way past levels of disrespect. You know, he had exposed me to neighbours. He had done things like I'm in my home and he would be running me out of my home not dressed, and then lock me and then mock me at the window with the kids and say to the kids, "Look outside the window, look at your mum." Like he would, So respect for me had gone. He had no respect for me.
Yeah.
You know, I was just, in a sense, someone to toy with. There was no respect. I know he didn't have any.
Question: what was his friends like? His personal friends, yeah.
They
were they riding along with his character?
Some knew, and I mean, he had family members that knew, and
they're not going to challenge him.
Not even like address him.
They was
like
never going to.
Not in my presence ever.
Wow.
I remember one time we were in the unit, and
do you feel like they knew the depths of what he was doing?
I remember one time in the unit, and we had pizza, and I made a joke regarding the pizza, and he threw the pizza in my face, and I was like, "Don't throw the pizza in my face," and we got into that altercation, and he told his cousin, "Take the kids in the car," and the cousin got up and took the kids in the car while he was in with unit.
Wow.
If he had that much disrespect for you, for everyone else, the kids, there was no doubt he would have been telling his friends exactly what he was going on. He would have. It's frustrating. It's really
what was his lifestyle like? What was his occupation? Was he working? What did he do?
You know the thing is as well, he was never steady in a job. He would only be in a job for a temporary time, and then he would say he's not in the job because I aggravated him, or I caused him to lose his job, or we would have an argument and then he'd be late for work. So then, you get so much late to your manager's going to say, okay, you need to go now. So he was never steady in the job. The only one that had the steady income was myself, because I was working all the time. And then when I was on maternity leave, I'm getting maternity money, So I was the only one with the steady income. But yeah, his work life was erratic,
Waste on all levels. Sorry to say.
Sorry.
You know.
And all I can say is that sorry that you had to deal with that by yourself.
100%.
And just listening to your story, I feel empowered right now that anybody that I see in any similar situation, like I feel I'm compelled to have to step in and try to do whatever I can at that point, because I couldn't imagine it from the other side, the victim side, and you just painted a picture right now.
Yeah, because I used to be that person that used to say that could never be me.
Yeah,
I would never get myself into that situation.
Because you feel like, because I've known you for a while, and you've got a very strong character. So I was very taken back knowing that you went through that, because I'm like, Monique, because you've always been so.
I think everyone was.
It's just, do you feel like mental and emotional abuse is as we call it, as bad as the physical abuse,
No,
or
there's
is
a
it on the
difference.
same?
There's a
Is
difference.
there a difference?
So, physical abuse, I'm not knocking it. It's bad because physical abuse can lead to death. So I'm not knocking
Of
physical
course.
abuse.
Yep.
But if you survive physical abuse, it's like the bruises, the cuts, they heal. But mental abuse, it stays for so much longer because there's so much in mental abuse. There's financial mental abuse. There's isolation abuse. There's the abuse where they just knock you out of character, like you're not in your own character anymore. You don't love yourself. You don't see yourself as beautiful anymore because that's what you're constantly being told. So there's different levels to emotional abuse. So for me, I feel like it's the worst part of it. Because physical abuse, like I said, if you survive, you can heal. You heal and then you live another day and then your bruises are gone and you can go outside the door and you're all right. Where mentally, it's with you. It stays with you for a very, very long time. It's a long road. Mental abuse is a long road to get out of it.
And for people like, I remember, knowing someone who was in a very similar situation, and it becomes very frustrating to the people that, because you don't want to give up, but at the same time, you give up because you feel that person doesn't want it. This is a long time ago. And I know one of my friends, best friend, and she basically just got to a point where she goes, I can't even help her no more because she doesn't want to help herself. But she keeps, like, what would you say to friends that are feeling like they just feel like they hit a brick wall and they're trying to, because it's a painful process, especially for family. Like, now that we're all parents, to know that your child is going through that and you can't even help your own child because your child is remaining, because you can't force it out. So it's almost like you have to wait for your loved one to be in that mental position to actually leave. But what would you say to like family members and friends that are in that situation?
I'd say don't give up on them. Don't give up. There's always going to be an end, and the only way there wouldn't be an end is if you give up and you step back. I'd say support them as much as you can, because there's, like you said, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can do, but support them. Let them, give them a chance to open up to you, because they, if you're there for them enough, they will eventually open up. You will open up. Just don't give up. Don't give up on them. Don't give up. It's so easy to just give up, and once you give up on them, they're gonna feel alone, because that is what the abuser wants. They want them to feel alone, and if they're feeling alone, then they're gonna stay where they are. But if there's support constantly around them, and they know that family members are there no matter what, there will be a time where they may turn around one day. I might not say it outright, but give you that indication of, I need help. It will happen. It will happen.
What? Sorry, Aaron. Because I know people watching this are probably going to say, what was it like when it finished? How was the relationship with him? What did he try and do? Did it calm down? Did it literally die down and you went your separate ways?
No.
What was it like?
The fight was hard when it ended. I've never spoken to him since the day of that incident. When I got away, I never have spoken to him again, unless I had to speak out in court and he had to hear me that way. I never spoke to him again. I mean, it didn't end there. It didn't just end overnight and then that was it. He left me alone. I mean, it was constant torment, and it was when I left, doing things like, we were in a solicitor's office. He rang 22 times in the solicitor's office. Like, he would just constantly call my mum phone. Then he would go through family and friends, and then he would tell them, even people that didn't even know about the situation, he was contacting them, and they were like, haven't spoken to her in like so long. And he got to the stage where he decided, okay, I'm gonna destroy her on social media. So it got to the point where he would put my photos out on social media and then be telling people to beware of me, and it was just
trying to brainwash these people.
Yeah, it was a constant breakdown, and then it was all the fights in court. We were constantly fighting in court. Just trying to just keep me and the kids safe, and so it went on for like, I think the fight with him went on for probably about 4 years or more. And I mean, in this time, when I was fighting in court, I had lost my granddad, my aunt had died. So much was going on at the same time. I'm still fighting him to just leave me alone, to just simply just leave me alone.
And is that literally all gone away now?
It's all gone away now.
Oh, well, that's
How are your
nice to
children
know.
today? Like your son, obviously, he was old enough to
See,
fathom what was going on at the time.
Mhm.
Has it affected him in any way?
Yeah. It definitely has. I mean, he saw so much, and when you're at that age, you understand a lot. You understand that what is going on is not right. But he's not old enough to help me in a sense, even though he wants to. But he can't. He's only so strong. So there's only so much he can do. And I'm the type of mum I always say to him, you are not to protect me, I am to protect you. So you should never be protecting me. I am here to protect you. Like, if a situation occurred, I'm going to protect. My first instinct is going to protect my children. I don't care about me, but I'm going to protect my kids. My kids are the ones that need protecting. So I think for him, it was the emotional side of things again, and it was getting over the emotional sides of it all with constantly feeling like he had to protect me, and it was trying to get him out of that situation of, you don't need to protect me anymore, we're not in that situation anymore, we're out. And then years to come down the line, it was him still kind of feeling like he had to prove himself, and it was like, you don't need to anymore because we're not in that situation anymore. So it does have a long-standing effect on kids as much as it does.
Yeah. Subconscious trauma as well. It's like a lot of trauma.
Yeah, and you do. And even for myself, I felt, I lived with so much guilt because I felt like, my daughter, she didn't understand it to this day now. She doesn't know like what happened. All she knows is that daddy's just not around, but she doesn't know the situation. But I had so much guilt for my son, because I felt like, well, I had put you into that situation. It was because of me why we had to go through that. So for me, it was like, even after, for myself, it was a lot of emotional building for myself, trying to things like stop blaming myself for what had happened, because I lived with a lot of guilt for a very, very long time.
And also that would affect you in like further relationships as well. Like that's like a major hurdle for to evolve into new happiness in your life.
I mean, even since it happened, I've had like one relationship, and it was healthy. It was a very healthy relationship.
God bless.
Good.
I mean, it was healthy. It wasn't to the point where I'm like, oh my god, it was terrible. It wasn't. It was a healthy relationship. But I think for me, I just wasn't ready. I think I found fault in him that wasn't really there. Because now I can say that. I mean, at the time I thought, I was right. But when I look and I sit down and I think, I was the one picking and finding the situations to make this relationship not good. But that was because I wasn't ready for a relationship.
It's like a self-sabotage.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not good enough for this relationship. So I'm just finding every and any little thing to pick at, because I don't know how to say I'm broken. I'm broken and I need to fix me. I can't be with you because I need to fix me.
And how did you fix you? I know you're still in the process. Or what helped you really, like?
Yeah, I'm still fixing me, I would say. I mean, it takes a long time to emotionally get out of that, because I was conditioned. I was conditioned, and when I got out of it, I was just all for my kids. I wasn't thinking about me. I was just like, right, I've got to make sure they get back to like stable life. So I've got to get them into schools again. I've got to, I've got to make sure that I'm taking them to, like, my son to his counselling, and I was just all for the kids, and I had forgotten about myself. And so it wasn't till many years later I realised that actually, hold on, wait, what about me? Like I need some help now, because I was conditioned. I mean, I was conditioned to the point where when I had money, I would ask my mum permission to spend my money.
Wow.
Because I didn't know how to spend money again. I didn't know how to control money.
Such a habit
I was in a habit of, I was always told how to spend money. So I didn't know how to do that. I was to the point where I couldn't go out on the street by myself. I was too scared to walk alone. So I was conditioned for a very, very long time, and it took myself to break out of habits. And then once I got over that hurdle, that's when I got to that point when I was like, okay, I need to look after me now. Like, I need to go to counselling for me, to get rid of, these demons that are in my closet now. I need to clear it out, because I'm ready now, and I know that the kids are all right. They're not going to want and they're not going to need for anything. So now I need to deal with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that. It's good to hear, babe.
Listen, I'm gonna be real with you, yeah. And I'm not scared to admit this. I'm 31 years old, and literally, I'm glad I had a tracksuit on because from when you started talking, I think I had goosebumps
Yeah.
the whole time. And I'm not even gonna lie, I was close to getting emotional.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to say that. I don't think anybody should go through what you've been through. So I think I'm actually gonna get upset.
Yeah, and also what I makes me check any like poor qualities that I have as a man within myself that I might bring to any relationship. Even though it's not been as extreme, but there is obviously qualities within myself. But I can speak for myself within myself that I might have brought that might have been toxic within relationships. And I feel like that your powerful message that you've given today has made me check myself. Yeah, more so than anything, and hopefully like the watchers at home will check themselves and you will inspire many women from here to be strong enough to undergo your journey as well and to
Come out.
come out of that relationship. So like I can only really really thank you for like being this strong to be able to go through your because it's not a story, it's a reality. So to go through your reality and share that with like the world, like that's so powerful to me. And I think that your kids should be like really look up to you and understand that you're really a strong woman
Amen.
to even to see over that hurdle, because there's so many other women that are still possibly in that relationship. So
And some
like
might not even get out.
might never
in
ever
their
get out.
relationship in terms of
Yep.
death.
Some don't make
so
it
Yeah.
Some don't make it out. That's what I was
So
about to
God
say.
bless you.
Yeah,
Like
listen, sorry about that. I didn't,
It's fine.
you know,
That's fine.
it touched me.
It's
I'm
real.
not gonna lie. This is real life. This is what you've been through. This, you know, and there's a lots of people going out there who are going through this. And I always say, you know, when people tell their stories, if you can help one person, then that's one person helped. And
Exactly.
you're so brave. You should be so proud of
Thank you.
what you've where you are to this day now. And I wish you nothing but, you know, success and positive
happiness. Yeah.
vibes,
Thank
man.
you.
Honestly,
Thank you.
honestly.
You definitely
So,
deserve it.
mhm.
Definitely. Well, that's a wrap for this. Anyone wants to add on anything?
That's touched me in a different
Yeah.
way. I'm never gonna lie. I've been. If you're wondering why I've been so silent, it's because I'm actually everything you've said. I'm envisioning it, and the more I'm envisioning it, the more rage I'm feeling within me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am totally against men eating women. There's not a soul on this planet that could put a comment below this video and say Aaron has put his hands on me. A female could never do that because I've never done it. Do you know what I'm saying? And I just can't comprehend how certain people can do it. Like,
Yeah.
what is going through their minds? Like, how do you sleep at night? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'll never understand it.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I could imagine. So if a guy does it once and he feels bad, like he did it out of anger, or he just switched off, and he's really remorseful, and you know he's never gonna do it again,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I can kind of say, okay, you made a mistake. But when you continuously do it,
I know.
I just feel, what the hell is
But-
wrong
but-
with you?
but-
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, it just drives me crazy. Like, I've got a daughter. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I knew my daughter was going through what you went through.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Very true.
I don't know
Crazy.
what I would do. Honestly, and you're a strong woman.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
remember that. And
Yeah.
like Jacko said, the fact that you've come out here and told your story, it speaks volumes. You know what I mean?
100%.
And all we can do is just hope and pray that you never go through something like this
Oh,
again.
she ain't.
100%.
She
You know what I
ain't.
mean? And it's not
It's
going to happen
rebuked.
because you've been through so much. You will see the signs. Your intuitive side will
Exactly.
just kick in
Yeah,
Exactly.
as soon as you see that first red flag. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So,
And working, and funny enough, just to sort of just add a little bit, I actually worked with a perpetrator who was actually quite a young person at the time, and because it can start from a very young age. The young person that I worked with was 17 years old at the time, and he was abusive to his girlfriend. And again, it was a cycle because he came from a cycle, then it was a cycle, and then he was going through his own. He was one thing that I got out of him is that he was very, very, very insecure. And it's funny because they make their victims, they basically, so it's like they project everything that they feel, they project it to the victims, so their insecurities. So they feel that small, so they want you to feel that small, and then like you said, that the emotional blackmail starts happening and so forth, and it's just like, you know, and I remember asking him, I said, so why? I said, do you love your girlfriend? And I remember he was like, yes, I do. I said, if you love your girlfriend, you wouldn't be with her, because you're mentally at the moment not ready to love someone, because you don't even love yourself, you don't even value yourself, you don't, so you can't be in a relationship. You cannot be in a relationship if because a relationship, this is not a relationship. Abuse is not a relationship. So you need to get yourself help. You need to heal yourself. And when you get to a place where you can look in the mirror and you're happy with the person that you are looking in the mirror, then you can go and get into a relationship. Because there are people that do get that actually find get help and do well, which I have been told is a minority, because what I've been told by a domestic violence worker, what she was basically saying, there is a proportion of people that do get help, especially if they get at a very young age. It's very hard to break that cycle when they get older. But if we get these young teenagers, for example, 17, 18, you know, under 21s, basically, we can break that cycle. When they get older, what happens is sometimes, not all of them, there are some that we know, there are testimonies and people that become better people, but they, if it's physical abuse that they used to use, it becomes they just they focus on emotional abuse. So they might not be physical, but it become emotional abuse. So it's almost like they just transfer the abuse into something else. So what I'm saying, you know, if you are that type of person, you know, you should just not be in a relationship, and I think it's no one's job to heal that person. And I thought that's what a lot of women do, even in normal relationships. I've been in a toxic relationship as well, not in no way near you or touches anywhere near, but just a toxic relationship where sometimes we feel like, you know, we're holding on to the problems. We are the ones that are trying to, you know, the toxic becomes a norm, and we don't let go of, you know. But thank you so much for sharing your story today. And what we are going to do below, we are going to leave. Is there any charities actually, or any that you know?
Organizations.
Because we're going to leave a few here for people to kind of.
They're now more now. There are a lot online now. Victim support, I know they're very good.
Okay.
And they're mostly in most boroughs and areas. You have a victim support area, and they're a very good place to go. They're very supportive, and they'll go through the whole process with you from the minute you leave.
Like a safety plan type of.
Yeah, God bless.
Yeah, and you're worth it, and you're loved, and you know, anyone that's in this situation, just remember that you're worthy and you're loved, and you don't deserve this, because this is not love. So thank you guys for joining us again on The Unbalanced, and it's a goodbye from us. Thanks, Mon. Oh, I'm not giving you a hug.
No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go.
It's all right. No, it's fine. No, it's human nature, and it's fine.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.